today, my name is John Chris Bonifacio and we will be discussing art history, particularly the beginning of arts, Western and Asian arts, history of instrumental music, Philippine art history, pre-colonial Philippine art, and the Spanish colonial art. When exactly did art begin? A quick browse of a book on art history would immediately give the impression that the history of art is immense. For instance, the earliest cave paintings predate writing by approximately 27 years. The following discussion of an art history would be primarily based on a timeline and presented in a manner that will not overwhelm the learner. The bulk of information about the history of art may be too much, so the focus of this report will only be on certain points in history that highlights events that are considered to be important in the evolution of arts as people know it today. The first art period in this discussion is the Stone Age. From 3000 BCE to 2500 BCE, its characteristics are cave painting, fertility goddesses, megalithic structures. Some popular artworks in this period are the Lascaux Caves, located in the south of France, considered among the most exquisite and well-preserved examples of prehistoric cultures. Paintings are found in the walls and ceilings of the caves. The paint used was mixture of grounded colored rocks and organic matter with tree sap and sometimes animal blood as binder. Next, the Venus of Willendorf, the oldest surviving three-dimensional depiction of the human body. It is older than the images of Lascaux. According to archaeologists and historians, this might be fertility goddess or a goddess that brings forth prosperity and good fortune. Last, the Stone Age, one of the most famous surviving Neolithic style structures located in southern England. It was constructed as a shrine. Next period is Mesopotamian, 3500 BCE to 539 BCE. Its characteristics are warrior art, narration in stone relief. Textures of the figures are achieved through repetition of lines or dots. Many freestanding sculptures and relief were created by Mesopotamian sculptors. The most impressive works are the so-called portal guardians. They usually are presented as animals, real or imagined, or animals with human heads. These are some popular artworks in this period. The Standard of Ur, Gate of Ashtar. The next period is Egyptian, from 3100 BCE to 30 BCE. Its characteristics are art with an afterlife focus, pyramids and tombs paintings. And last, in massive and monumental structures. Some popular artworks in this period are pyramids at Giza. The ancient engineering works at Giza were so great that even today's scientists cannot be certain exactly how the pyramids were built. Yet historians have learned much about the people who built them and political power necessary to make this happen. Next is Abu Simbel Temple of Ramesses II. Temples were cut from the side of a mountainside made of solid rock. Its location is in the ancient Wawat in Nubia, near the borders of Sudan. Next is the Great Sphinx of Giza, most recognizable statue associated with ancient Egypt and among the most famous in the world. The sculpture of a recumbent lion with the head of an Egyptian king was carved out of limestone on the Giza Plateau. Next period is Greek and Hellenistic, 850 BCE to 31 BCE. Its characteristics are Greek idealism, balance, perfect proportions, and architectural orders, Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian. Some popular sculpture in this period are archaic style, stiff and rigid, classical style, which is realistic and includes the presentation of movement. The last is Hellenistic style, resulted from centuries of Greek studies of the human form. Next period is Roman, from 500 BCE to CE 476. Its characteristics are Roman realism, practical and down to earth, and the arch. The Romans invented the Roman arch. The Roman arch helped the Romans to make bigger bridges and aqueducts. These aqueducts were responsible for making water runs into the towns and allowed them to create their famous Roman baths. The baths were shared to the public in places where people gathered. The bath was a large pool surrounded by many shops, restaurants, libraries, and sometimes a gym. The baths were built using the best building material, which include marble. Some major artworks in this period are Augustus of Prima Porta, Colosseum, Trajan's Column, and the Pantheon. Next period is Hindu, Chinese, Japanese. From 653 BCE from CE 1900. Its characteristics are serene, meditative art, arts of the flowing world. Hindu art reflects a plurality of beliefs. Hindu temples, which depicts their architecture and where sculptures are found, usually are devoted to different deities. Deities commonly worshipped include Shiva, the destroyer, Vishnu in his incarnations as Rama and Krishna, Ganesha, the elephant god of prosperity. These deities are usually portrayed with multiple limbs and heads, which indicates the extent of the god's power and ability. Chinese arts have evolved throughout its history. As political and social circumstances change and new technologies evolved, so did its art. Artists and artisans in ancient China relied heavily on patronage of the imperial court and the aristocracy. Chinese art encompasses fine arts, folk arts, and the performance arts. Japanese art has frequently been complicated by the definitions and expectations established in the late 19th and early 20th century, when Japan was open to the West. Japanese art covers a wide range of art styles and media, including Asian pottery, sculpture, ink, painting, and calligraphy on silk and paper, ukiyo-e painting, and woodblock prints, kirigami, origami, Dorodango, and more recently, manga, a method of Japanese cartooning and comics. Next period is Byzantine and Islamic, 476 CE to 1453 CE. Its characteristics are heavily Byzantine mosaics, Islamic architecture, and amazing maze-like design. Byzantine art is about religious expression and more especially about church theology translated into aesthetic forms. Byzantine forms of architecture and paintings were based on these religious concerns, which made art uniform, anonymous, and perfected within this rigid tradition. The result was a sophistication of style and a spirituality of expression that rarely compares with the art of Western tradition. Some popular artists and artworks in these periods are Hagia Sophia, Andrei Rublev, Mosque of Cordova. Next period is Middle Ages from 500 to 1400. Its characteristics are Celtic art, Carolingian Renaissance, Romanesque, and the Gothic. Some popular artworks in this period are Notre Dame Cathedral, Chartres Cathedral, Celtic art. That ends my report. The next reporter is Mr. Carl.
Hello, I'm Carl Pergoleza and I'll be reporting about the next art periods. Early period and High Renaissance period in the year 1400 to 1550. Its characteristic is rebirth of classical culture. Popular artists and major artworks in this period are Ghiberti's Doors, Brunelleschi, Donatello, Botticelli, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael. Significant historical events under this period are Gutenberg's invents movable type in the year 1447, Turks conquer Constantinople in the year 1453, Columbus lands in New World in the year 1492, Martin Luther starts Reformation in the year 1517. This movement began in the Italy in the 14th century. Renaissance literally means rebirth and describes a revival of interest in the artistic achievements of the classical world. Two main themes are individual expression and worldly experience. This movement was brought about by the increasing sophistication of society, characterized by political stability, economic growth, and cosmopolitanism. Education took center stage with libraries and academics that allowed empirical studies and researches to be conducted into the cultures of the ancient world. Next is the Venetian and Northern Renaissance in the year 1430 to 1550. Its characteristics are the Renaissance spreads northward to France, the Low Countries, Poland, Germany, and England. Popular artists and major artworks under this period are Bellini, Giorgione, Titian, Durer, Bruegel, Bosch, Jan van Eyck, Roger van der Weyden. Significant historical events under this period are Council of Trent and Counter-Reformation in the year 1545 to 1563. Copernicus proves the Earth revolves around the Sun in the year 1543. Famous for advanced techniques in oil painting, realistic, expressive, altarpiece art, and wooden panel paintings, woodcuts, and printmaking. Stone sculpture was not very popular. Germans boast of their wood carving techniques. Dutch art was determined by empirical perspective, while the Italian Renaissance aimed for the scientific and rational understanding of the world, while the Dutch aimed to get to the bottom of the mysteries of the world with a precise observation of all things, capturing every single detail. They painted what they saw and came very close to the effect of central perspective. Next period is Mannerism in the year 1527 to 1580. Its characteristic is art that breaks the rules, artifice over nature. Popular artists and major artworks under this period are Tintoretto, El Greco, Pontormo, Bronzino, Cellini. Significant historical events is Magellan circumnavigates the globe in the year 1520 to 1522. Paintings and compositions in this period can have no focal point and space can be ambiguous. Compositions are marked by clashing colors, which lacks the balance, naturalism, and dramatic colors of the High Renaissance. Mannerist artwork seeks instability and restlessness, with a fondness for allegories that have lascivious undertones. Next period is the Baroque in the year 1600 to 1750. Its characteristics are splendor and flourish for God, art as a weapon in the religious wars. Popular artists and major artworks are Rubens, Rembrandt, Caravaggio, Place of Versailles, Palace of Versailles. Significant historical events under this period is 30 Years' War between Catholics and Protestants in the year 1618 to 1648. The word Baroque describes something that is elaborate and highly detailed. Most important events were the Reformation and Counter-Reformation. The style is being considered closely linked to Catholic Church. Its popularity was encouraged by the Catholic Church, characterized by exaggerated motion and clear detail used to produce drama, exuberance in sculpture, painting, architecture, literature, dance, music. Chiaroscuro technique is a trait of Baroque art. This technique refers to the interplay between light and dark, often used in paintings with dimly lit scenes to produce a very high contrast, dramatic atmosphere. Next period is the Neoclassical period, in the year 1750 to 1850. Its characteristic is art that recaptures Greco-Roman grace and grandeur. Popular artists and major artworks under this period are David, Ingres, Gruz, Canova. Significant historical events under this period are Enlightenment, 18th century, Industrial Revolution in the year 1760 to 1850. Painting and sculpture in this period involve an emphasis on austere linear design in the depiction of classical events, characters, and themes, using historically correct settings and costumes. Its emergence was greatly stimulated by the new scientific interest in classical antiquity that arose during the course of 18th century. A series of archaeological discoveries of buried Roman cities caused renewed interest in Roman art. Published engravings of Roman monuments further heightened interest in classical antiquity. Next period is the Romanticism period in the year 1780 to 1850. Its characteristic is the triumph of imagination and individuality. Popular artists and major artworks under this period are Caspar Friedrich, Géricault, Delacroix, Turner, Benjamin West. Significant historical events under this period are American Revolution in the year 1775 to 1783, French Revolution in the year 1789 to 1799, Napoleon crowned Emperor of France in the year 1803. Romantic visual and literary artists glorified things. Things that are glorified were not tangible or physical. In this period, complex concepts like liberty, peace, survival, hope, heroism, despair, and other sensations that nature evokes in humans. All of these things are felt on a more personal and highly subjective level. Aside from presenting intangible ideas, Romanticism may also be characterized by what it stood against. The movement championed spiritualism over science, instinct over deliberation, nature over industry, democracy over subjugation, and rusticity over aristocracy. These are concepts that are subjective and open to individual interpretation. Next period is Realism in the year 1848 to 1900. Its characteristic is celebrating working class and peasants, and plein air rustic painting. Popular artists and major artworks under this period are Corot, Courbet, Daumier, Millet. Significant historical events is European democratic revolutions of 1848. Realists reject Romanticism, which had dominated French literature and art since the late 18th century. They had enough of the exotic subject matter and exaggerated emotionalism of the movement. Realists wanted to portray real people in real situations with truth and accuracy, including all the unpleasant aspects of life. Realist works depicted people of all classes in ordinary life situations, which reflected the changes brought on by the industrial and commercial revolutions. Realist artists portrayed everyday subjects and situations in contemporary settings and aimed to depict individuals of all social classes in a similar manner. Next period is Impressionism in the year 1865 to 1885. Its characteristic is capturing fleeting of effects of natural light. Popular artists and major artworks are Manet, Renoir, Pissarro, Casar, Morisot, Leslie Degas. Significant historical events under this period are Franco-Prussian War in the year 1870 to 1871, unification of Germany in the year 1871. Impressionism is a style of painting that emerged in the mid to late 1800s. The movement emphasizes an artist's immediate impression of a moment or scene, communicated through the effect of light and its reflection, short brush strokes, and separation of colors. Impressionist painters often use modern life as their subject matter. They painted quickly and freely. The term impressionist was originally intended as derogatory term used by art critics appalled at this style of painting.
History of instrumental music. Instrumental music, as the words imply, is a musical composition that is without lyrics or singing, although it might include some inarticulate vocals. In addition, instrumental music marked the beginnings of the elements of harmony, rhythm, and melody that made music so beautiful then and still is up to now. Although people vary in their taste for music, it is instrumental music that can mimic the sounds of nature so well that it can effectively stir the deepest of the human emotion. So first, we will discuss the medieval music. It is secular music with notated manuscript showing connection with the church. Organum indicated the beginnings of harmony. During this period, music was primarily vocal. Instruments were used to accompany vocal lines or to improvise instrumental dances. Rhythm was notated during this period, and traditions regarding the treatment of the sacred text, the meter of the text, and the musical abilities of singers and instrumentalists often determined the rhythmic complexity and tempo of pieces. Next, I will discuss the Renaissance music. It increased the freedom in music, showed harmony and polyphony. Composers still devoted to the choral writing. During the Renaissance era, music was usually performed by the vocal groups. When instruments were used with voices, they often performed the same lines. Instrumental music included ensembles and solos. Now I'll discuss the Baroque music. It is a choral music no longer dominated the era. The idea of the modern orchestra was born. Violin, viola, cello, and harpsichord were invented, important advances in all musical groups. In the Baroque era, vocal and instrumental music were both prominent and ensembles, such as chamber orchestras, became popular. Strings were the main section of the chamber orchestra, and woodwinds and brass were used for solo effects. A transitional period between the Baroque and the Classical period called Rococo set the stage for the emergence of the classical style. The Rococo music was characterized by the delicate, frivolous expression designed more to please than to excite the listener. Classical music, known for the sonata form, development of modern concerto, symphony, trio, and quartet. It is the obsession with the structural clarity. Thus, classical music found its way into the very fabric of society, being played outdoors, at dinner parties, or special occasions, or as a spectacle and a form of an opera. Under the Romantic music, there are barley Romantic music and late Romantic music. Barley Romantic music is the golden age of Bertuzzo, attempts to balance the expressive and the formal in music, while the late Romantic music is a composition in terms of emotional content and dramatic continuity. During this era, the increased technical facility of Bertuzzo performers led to faster tempos. Melodies became subjective, emotional, and often virtuosic. Greater technical proficiency by performers led to an expansion in the range of melodies, and changes in dynamic and wide leaps between notes frequently used to heighten the expressive qualities of the melodies. New and complex harmonies were introduced, and harmonic variations such as use of modulation and chromatic tones were common during this period. Genera used included concertos, sonatas, symphonies, and operas. New forms emerged such as character pieces for piano or strings such as the nocturne, waltz, and etude. Lastly, the modern music. It is known diverse styles. The two foremost composers of this period are Claude Debussy and Maurice Ravel. Both excelled in works for piano and orchestra. Debussy's most famous composition is the piano work Clair de Lune, while Ravel's is the orchestral work Bolero. Philippine art history refers to Filipino works of art
that have developed in country from the beginning of its civilization up to the present era. Pre-colonial Philippine art before 1521. Early evidence of ancient tools and other artifacts abound in the different islands of the Philippines. Many objects created for daily use can be found all over the country in places like Batangas, Cagayan, Central Luzon, Davao, and Palawan. Below are description of other artifacts that were discovered, such as receptacles, textile weaving, jewelry, pottery, sculpture, and architecture. Receptacles. These were containers fashioned by early Filipinos to enclose and protect the bodies of their dead relatives. Protection and consecration of the bodies supported what scientists thought about early Filipinos believing in life after death and immortality of the soul. Receptacles can also be made of leaves, wood, and bamboo. The bamboo was the most popular material because of its abundance and natural characteristic. Textile weaving. Flat stone tools believed to have been used to pound and flatten tree barks into primitive types of textile have been excavated. Jewelry. It was discovered in Duyong Cave, Palawan. Shells, animal bones, and small stones were earliest adornments. Shells were used for accessories like bracelet, earrings, and pendants. There was also evidence of skill in making jade ornaments. Accessories made of jade were found in Palawan and Calatagan excavation sites. Gold beads were found in Guri Cave, dated 300 to 100 BCE. Pottery. Clay pots were discovered in Masbate. The most convenient way to classify and study thousands of pre-Hispanic pottery is to classify them according to its shape, method of decoration, and type of design on the surface. These are the ways to classify and study pre-Hispanic pottery. First is the shape. Shape is the description of the vessel body. The form of its mouth, the thickness of its lips, or the presence of ears, spouts, and legs attached to its body. Next is the method of decoration. It is the manner by which designs are applied on the body surface. Then, the decorative designs. Decorative designs are either impressed or incised. Impressed designs involve pressing on the vessel certain objects like a rope, string, or small piece of mat while the surface clay is wet. This will leave an impression on the surface of the clay as it dries. Incised designs make use of sharp objects to draw patterns on the earthenware's still wet body. Abstract designs consist of dots, straight lines, and curved lines, which are inspired by nature. Then representational designs are usually objects in nature. Next is a sculpture. The Banungol burial jar is regarded as the symbol of Philippine prehistoric artifacts. It was found in Palawan and is named after the cave where it is found. The jar is 66.5 cm in height and 51 cm in the diameter. Figurines representing spirits constituted most of the early Philippines representational sculpture. The Tagalogs called their religious image Likhat, Tao-Tao, and Larawan. Architecture. The early inhabitants of the Philippines were seafaring people. The houses during 16th century were single-room construction with walls of bamboo and roof of palm leaves. The ground floor was usually for storage. Cooking and washing were done in part of the house called batalan. The style and structure of native dwellings are of three different types. These structures are still being built in rural places around the country. These are the Bahay Kubo or Nipa Hut, Ifugao House, and the Maranao House. As you can see in the picture, Bahay Kubo or Nipa Hut is built from bamboo and nipa, which are the most common construction materials in the rural areas. Ifugao houses are so structured because of the cold climate of the mountain province. Then Maranao house is a traditional house with a boat-like appearance. The Muslim art. The most important element in Muslim art is color. Green, yellow, red, violet, and blue, all in high intensity, enrich and enhance any okir. Okir are elaborate, curvilinear motifs made by the Maranao and Tausog tribes of Mindanao. Ukir Adatu are ornamental designs for men and Ukiabay for women. One of the famous Muslim art is Sarimanok. Sarimanok is a representation of an open-winged legendary bird which stands on a fish with another fish hanging from its beak. It is usually placed on the top of the bamboo poles at the center of Maranao villages among decorative flags during festive occasions. Next is Naga. Naga is a styled dragon or serpent carved in grave markers or elaborate in flows. Then, the elegance of Maranao brasswork is best seen in the Kabul and Gadur, jar-like containers with covers that resemble the domes of their mosques. The art of mountain province. Wood is the medium of choice in the art of mountain province. It is used in making shields, spoons, ladles, bowls, and also human and animal figurines. Wood carving is considered an important skill in all tribes. Iron melting and bronze casting are the other skill of Ifgaos and Itneg. Mountain art is divided into two kinds, the ritualistic and the decorative. The bulul and the bihang are ritualistic arts. Abstract designs seen in textile, bamboo containers, brass and gold ornaments are all decorative. The bulul is a figure of a benevolent spirit who guard rice fields, and the bihang is a figure meant to scare and create fear of punishment in anybody who goes against the norm of the village.